Yeah, no, you're way more impressive at it than we are.
Hey,
So
we are live.
we are live. We are being joined by Sam Panico. I believe that's how you pronounce the last name.
It sure is. You guys are right.
I prefer to say Panico, but that's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. However you want to say it.
We have an echo.
Yeah.
What? Where do you have an echo? What are you talking about, an echo?
We have an echo.
I don't hear an echo.
Oh, I have one. I don't know why.
It's just you, man.
If it's just me, I can try to deal with it.
It's really weird now. We just started live and you're Drew. Objectively terrible compared to the apocalypse intro.
Okay, I'm gonna.
Drew, are you here? Are you part of this tonight? Okay, well, Drew's gone.
Sweet.
So our guest tonight, Cult Cinema, is Sam Panico. We're talking about the Deathstalker movie series. There's 4 of them, right?
Mm-hmm. And soon to be a fifth.
Oh, soon to be a 5th, but there's a legacy too
Mm-hmm.
that goes along with those movies. So Sam, real quick, can you just introduce yourself?
Sure, I'm Sam Panico from the website B&S About Movies, and also one of the co-hosts of the Drive-In Asylum, which is on every Saturday at 8 usually, but this week we're on at 11. The late movie this week.
Drew, are you back? No, he's completely off in a different world. Maybe this
Technical
is terrible,
problems.
Drew. Why, Drew? Like, why are you even here, man? Who invited you to this? So, anyways, I guess we'll start off the podcast. Well, okay. All right, we lost Drew again, so we'll go ahead and start off for everybody. Again, I'll just say the Deathstalker Legacy. So, I'll be totally honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
I watched the first one, and then I don't know if I've seen the other 3.
Each one, other than 1 and 4, have a different person play Deathstalker too, which is a little confusing.
No, my favorite. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, good.
I was gonna say my favorite line from the original movie was, "This is my horse."
Yeah.
Like the first couple minutes, this he's standing there with his flowing blonde locks. This is my horse. And I feel that.
It's funny because Deathstalker is kind of like the Battle Beyond the Stars of Roger Corman's Barbarian movies, because the same footage shows up in like 7 other movies. I was
telling JC that earlier because he had brought up the pig man who's in the bar.
Yeah.
And when I first started watching these all these years ago, that was one of the first jarring things that I noticed, where I was like, oh man, yeah, this is legit low budget filmmaking at its finest, trying to figure out how to recycle footage.
And not to jump too far ahead, but one of the spin-off movies was Cocaine Wars.
Yeah.
Right? And that's actually one of my favorite movies.
It's one of the many Argentinian movies. The funny thing is, Corman made a deal to shoot 5 movies originally, and he spent all of the budget on the sets for this one. And then he figured, well, I'll use these sets for 4 other movies, and that's how I'll do my deal. So the other thing you guys mentioned, the Pigman too, that's Jose Arevalo. He was actually a pro wrestler in Argentina on there's a show called Titanes en el Ring. It's kind of like, man, I can't even describe it. It's even weirder than Chikara or groups that run comedy feds. It's like a promotion made for kids. And he had 4 different roles there. He was the gorilla, Altan Bulak, the giant of Mongolia, and most famously Kahi the Mogul. He was also a ripoff of another actor, Salvatore Campesano. But Titanes in El Ring. If there's some footage of it that you can see on YouTube, it's awesome. There's a guy named Dracula there that wrestles like a totally mat-based style. He's kind of like Satanico, and he's awesome. He's a really good wrestler. But it ran for like 25 years.
What's it called again?
Titanes in El Ring. And like they had aliens. An alien had a laser gun that he could freeze people. There was most famously a mummy. Jose Calagan, the guy who ran it, feuded with a mummy for most of his career. And they ran huge shows at Luna Park in Argentina. Like it was like, and they kind of did a lot of stuff Vince McMahon later did with like the skits and everything. But this is in the late 60s, early 70s. And
okay.
So it was around for a long time. Originally in black and white. There's 2 movies made from it too. But the quality, if you ever find them, is abysmal.
I always lament the end of Chikara because this is off topic, but that was like, dude, who didn't love Chikara?
Me,
right? Like it was so fun. It was you didn't.
It's fine for what it is.
It was so fun.
It's weird because like if a Japanese indie that runs for 200 people would do it, I would think it was awesome. But
right.
I'm like kind of like inverse racist towards American wrestling usually. So
of course, Chikara was like a copy of like the Michinoku Pro kind of.
Michinoku, one of my a Soccer Pro is one of my favorite
Soccer
promotions
Pro,
ever. So and Universal, which is that group, and everybody kind of came from. That's where Sasuke and Dolphin came from. Sasuke was Monkey Magic Vegeta, which is the awesomest gimmick. He was a monkey with a tail. And Universal's the awesomest promotion. What's his name? Joaquin Wilde has a Universal tattoo, which is the coolest tattoo. And he said every time he goes to Mexico, all these older lucha guys stop and go, "How do you know about that?" And he's like, "Oh, I could talk to you about it for a long time."
Chikara, that's where some of the more popular AEW gimmicks came out of, right? Like
Cassidy came from there. He was what, Soldier Ant or Fire. He's one of the ants. And tons of guys came from. And Eddie Kingston came from there. He was the one in the wild cards when he did the indies around here.
And funny enough, I saw Eddie Kingston first at IWC, and then I saw him in CZW.
Yeah. When his first year, I think IWC was one of the first places he traveled to. That was, gosh, it makes me feel old to remember. I don't want to know how many
years ago. Long time ago.
That's kind of jarring too to think about because it seems like yesterday. It was the early 2000s. And
I saw the main event in a gym that was on top of like another building. It was AJ Styles versus Samoa Joe, IWC. Like that was the main event.
The shows have really big matches. And it was always like scary to like be on shows with those guys. Not scary in like a physically dangerous way, but it's like, oh, especially for my like students that I had, like they'd have to debut on a show and like that would be the main event, their first match out there, and the crowd would just eat them alive. So it was kind of frightening for them. But I think it's good. It's like a baptism of fire. Kind of like the show that's in this movie is very pro wrestling. There's like a big tournament in it, which I love.
There is
any movies that have tournaments, from Arena to Bloodsport, any Van Damme movie. There's like 15 Van Damme movies that are about tournaments. I'm a big fan of.
Yeah, and I had the technical issues for a minute, so I'm not sure what you guys covered there for a minute. And
just everything, we're done.
Yeah, we're done.
All right. Okay, then I'll hit the outro. I also just took in this gigantic dog that I thought was in a really bad spot. And so to keep this dog from being in a like abusive household, I brought him in, and it's been like 9 days of awesome. And then today he just decided that he had some attitude, and so he's making all kinds of noise in the background too. So if anybody can hear that, he's just not happy that I'm in the living room and not letting him come in. So I apologize for any background noise that's happening. But one of the things about Deathstalker that so I first saw Deathstalker. I bought the VHS for all 4 of the films, and it was when we had that unfortunate side effect of, modern times, video stores started to die off. There's a video store in Leechburg, PA called Kiski Valley Video, and myself and some of my friends would go in, and we would just peruse when they were closing because they were selling everything off, and they had this back room full of all the old VHS. And between the two of us, we bought out the entire back room of the VHS. And so the things that jumped out most were Deathstalker. So I grabbed them, played them. There was like a whole day. I marathoned through all 4 of them. And the first actor, is it Rick Hill who played?
Yeah, Rick Hill. Yeah.
Yeah. He was a like some like former football player, and he just had like this look to him that commanded the screen. There was a charisma, but he definitely had more of that Conan style look and feel
Yeah.
to him. You know, he was real buff, and you jump into Deathstalker 2, and they had recast him, and they went almost like the complete opposite direction as far as the character goes, where he went from almost this Conan-esque figure to kind of like a Dread Pirate Roberts for the second and third film, where he's small and witty and beats people with his speed versus the kind of standard charisma of the big bulky barbarian. And then they brought Rick Hill back for part 4, and
Yeah.
which is cool. You said that you were doing some heavy research for this. Do you happen to know why they ended up changing actors?
I think it was just whoever they could get, because when they were in Argentina or wherever they were shooting them, generally they were gang shooting these movies. Like
Yeah,
because that's why like Richard Hill's in more than he was in like 5 movies within that same time period, a really short time period. Yeah, John Turleski took over in 2, and then the third one is John Allen Nelson, who's the young cop from Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Which is
okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a connection I didn't make.
Yeah, he's in Deathstalker 3. The other crazy thing is like Rick Hill has like the total pro wrestling background. Like he played for Georgia Tech, got played practice squad for the Lions, played CFL for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and then he could have. It seems like somebody that would have gone into wrestling, but he went into acting instead. So yeah, he did like the Devastator and Warrior Queen, really close to the same time period. He's also in classic. Good.
Oh, I'm sorry. He also collaborated with Pete Rose on his
I was going to say that's the craziest part. It's like, how did you?
Sorry, didn't mean to spoil that.
And he's a Rhodes Scholarship nominee, which is like not many people get. So he's actually a smart guy. And I was excited when he showed up in the last one, because the thing I like about this one is it feels more like a Conan novel than Conan does in some ways, because Conan's kind of like takes advantage of people and he's not always the nicest guy. And Deathstalker's kind of a jerk, to say the least, in this.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and he's like constantly taking advantage of people versus, like you said, in the other ones, he's a lot more heroic. Everybody in this movie is kind of evil in different ways, other than the women. Obviously, they're always virtuous, but
they were just naked.
Yeah, they're all South African models too, which is crazy. None of them spoke English.
Even the blonde?
Some of them, the lead ones, there's a couple lead ones that are, but all the harem girls were all from South Africa. Because it's funny, like both Canon and then when they went to be 21st Century, and Corman had these weird South African connections where they would always bring in actors from there to be in their low budget movies.
That was such a jarring moment for me. Like in the first 30 seconds, you get a tit slip, right? In the first movie, and then all of a sudden, 3 minutes later, he's got this girl up against like pillar, and then this old dude just comes walking out, and he's like, "Hey."
Yeah.
And then everybody stops what they're doing. Oh, we got.
This is one of the many movies that my wife walked in at the wrong moment. Do you know what I mean? And it's like
that is the perfect movie for it too. Yeah.
And she's always like, "Why are you watching this pornography?" I'm like, "There's so much better porn that I could be watching than Deathstalker." Like,
this is not pornography.
Yeah. Like this is not hitting any of my buttons outside
this is high art.
Yeah. But yeah, this is filled with like I always joke on our show about Roger Corman and his foreign investors, because that's what was always his excuse. Because he'd be like, "Well, the foreign investors want this, so like that's why in Galaxy of Terror a giant worm rapes a woman." Like, who are these foreign investors? This movie is actually directed by
Turkey.
one of his big aiding and abetting of those James Spartaletti. John Watson's the name he used, but he's the guy that actually shot the rape sequences in Humanoids from the Deep. And nobody that made that movie was told that those scenes were going to be put in. Like director Barbara Peters, lead star Ann Turkle, none of them were told that the scenes of the Humanoids from the Deep. That's the selling point of that movie, is that they come out of the water and assault women. I mean, the 80s, right? But like, yeah, that's the director. He did it. He was also John Frankenheimer's assistant director on like 8 movies, which is pretty wild. He was the second unit for Richard Stanley's Island of Dr. Moreau and Beastmaster. So maybe that gave him some. He made Beastmaster before this, which is no, after this. So maybe that was how he got the experience. And he was also AD on Battle Beyond the Stars, which is one of my favorite Corman movies.
Did you happen to watch the Vinegar Syndrome 4K release of Beastmaster at all?
No, not yet. I've been debating getting it, and I like Beastmaster 2 more because Richard Lynch is in it.
Yeah, it is one of the best 4Ks that I've ever seen, and on multiple occasions, that scan is so good, you could literally count the nipple hairs on Mark Singer's chest. Like, I was blown away by how good that transfer is. So I highly recommend it. But I mean,
Isn't
that's
it
also a bit
amazing
off
for a
topic.
movie that was on TV so much? Now we're willing to spend that much for it.
Yeah,
But
that's part of the collecting, man. That's these
yeah,
boutiques, they obviously need to make their money back, but you're absolutely right. So on topic, on brand, Deathstalker, that is an out of print release from Scream Factory, Shout Factory, and I think the aftermarket goes for, well into the hundreds at this point. It was like, I remember talking to you on Facebook a couple of years ago, and it was $89.99 at the time. And I'm sure it's only gone up since then.
You know what's crazy? I saw the 4-pack one of it at a Walmart a couple weeks ago, and I should have bought it.
Oh, really? The DVD?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. I think either they found it in back or someone ordered it. It's always crazy when you find like, just something strange that shows up. Then again, TerraVision's in Walmart now, so I mean, anything can
That's
happen,
true.
right?
Well, it was definitely in the back. It like slid down behind like something, and somebody pulled it out. It's like, all right, $5.
It's like how I got the Dolomite box set at Walmart for $8. Like, how does it was in the clearance bin? And I was like, what? I bought like 4 of them and gave them to people. I was like, I can't believe this is happening.
Yeah, that's really cool. And one of the I know that Shout now has a deal with Walmart, so it might have just been like some backstock that they had sent out their way. I just bought the Killer Clowns from Outer Space Steelbook. It is not rare or out of print, but it was the first one that I had purchased in a long time. And when I saw people posting about it, I got immediate FOMO about it and was like, okay, well, I have to drive to Indiana, PA and go buy this. Like, I called every Walmart in my area, and they were the closest one that had a copy, and they were nice enough to hold it at the desk.
Oh man. I keep hearing that they're going to do like a $5 deal on them, and like I fear that, because it's like, do I really need this movie? No, but sure, I'll get it. That's what always happens. I almost bought on the Vinegar Syndrome sale. I was like, I had like 20 things in my cart, and I'm like, my entire basement is flooded twice, so it's going to cost 10 grand to fix my movie basement. So it's sad. I have to make an adult decision versus a child, a collector decision.
That is always what comes up. It's like the adulting versus the collecting. I was living in my car a couple of years ago, and I had gotten rid of, well, not a couple. It's been more than a couple. It's been about 10 years. Lived in my car briefly for a couple of months, and I got rid of everything that I could except my movies. Like, I had my movies, and I was like, this makes total sense to get rid of all of my livelihood, but I need to keep my movies. And eventually, I had to also unload those so that I could afford a down payment for an apartment. But
that was actually my favorite Drew saga, was when he lived in his car.
Oh man,
it was so much fun.
It was an entertaining time. It certainly was not made easier by you making fun of me.
I sold all my LJNs to finish my last house and do the repairs there so that I could buy this house. So I had a Warrior package too. So
did that include the LGN video games, or just
all the figures? So there was everybody except for I didn't have the second Andre, but it was like White Hogan, Haku, but all in package, and I was like, it paid for it. It paid for the kitchen, and that's how we
You
were
know,
able to get out and do it.
I hate to say it, but like when I go to like a lot of these retro gaming festivals and stuff, especially up here in Cleveland, Pittsburgh. There's the Montreal, the Monroeville
Mhm.
Gaming Expo and stuff like that. There's so many people hawking those LGN
Oh, they're
figurines or whatever you want to call them.
well.
That
They're making them new ones now too. So
Yeah,
where are the Deathstalker figures? That's what I want to know. Everything else gets made.
I
The
think.
figure I'm most upset about, and movie I'm most upset about. I was at an exchange in Cleveland once, and this is when I didn't have any money. I was between my age. I owned an agency. It went out of business. I was looking for a job, and in advertising, which is never fun. And they had there was a set that came out that had the Red Queen kill 7 times. It came with an action figure of her, and it's super out of print now, and it was like $70. And I was trying to convince my wife. She's like, "How many copies of that movie do you own?" I'm like 3, but I don't have the figure. And then I'd had it, and it was like 200, and I'm like, "Yeah, I don't." So I'm never gonna get it, but I want more. I just saw there's a Japanese deep red figure too. Like, let's bring out these figures. Like, I want a Your Hunter from the Future figure. I don't care about all the other movies that have been made 1,000 times. I want these. There is a Your comic book coming, and and a Deathstalker comic coming. So I'm super.
Oh, that is
Yeah,
cool.
Antarctic Press is doing a 4-issue miniseries of Your, which is based on a comic anyway. Um,
I
so
love Your. That movie's fantastic.
I have the Italian 6-hour version because it was a TV
Oh, I've never
series.
seen it.
Oh, I'll send you the files. It's awesome. The only thing it sucks is like the American translations are funnier. Like the Bring Me the Choice Meats is not in the Italian version, which I say all the time. I say Your stuff
Yeah.
almost constantly to my wife, but I love that it starts with him killing a stegosaurus and then drinking its blood, and everybody just stares at him like, "What is wrong with you?" And he's like, "Drink the blood of your enemies." And I, come on, Red Brown.
I don't have the blue of that either.
Mm,
But the last time I watched it, I was watching it on Comet TV, which I thought was
yeah,
like a really fun way to experience it with a little bit of TV edits and stuff. I'm
yeah.
weirdly nostalgic for watching an edited version on a network like that. I always keep up with Comet for that reason, and I watch like the Sven Gulli stuff on MeTV too,
love
because
Svengoolie, yeah.
yeah. Um, I reached out to him to be on this show, and he said that they're
Oh,
not taking any
oh,
podcasts right now. So I
I'm
think
actually pretty offended about that.
I think it was a nice way of turning us down, and I appreciated it because I don't know if I can
I
handle
mean,
Sven Cooley thinking I
at
suck.
least he answered. The Pope hasn't answered, so
yeah.
True.
When we did an issue of Driving Asylum that had Joe Bob on the cover that I painted, and like we went in early when he came one time to Edgewood, and we gave him a copy of it, and like I gave him a script from Chiller Theater's last show that was signed by Chili Billy, and then I couldn't say a single word to him. It was ridiculous. I was like, my wife just laughed the whole time because I was just like, "You're great, like your movies." That and Carolyn Monroe. Those are the two people that I got the most tongue tied around. It was Carolyn Monroe was bad. She was like, "Do you?" She's like, she was like talking through my wife to me. She was like, "Do you like Italian movies, Sam?" She's like, "He does." Yeah, she's like, "Do you like Jolly?" And he's like, "Yes, he does." He likes Jess Franco too. You were in Faceless. And I'm like, "Yeah, she was in Faceless. That's a good movie." It was ridiculous. Like I felt I was such an idiot, but it's okay. You know.
That's I think that is more common than it might seem. I just met Jim Norton a couple of
Mm,
weeks ago, and I was the same way. And I've been a Jim Norton fan for like as far back as I can remember with Opie and Anthony and stuff.
hmm
And that was my exact experience. Like when we left, my wife was like, "You just paid $150 to say that to him?"
Yeah.
I was like,
I
"Yeah,
always
I
feel
mean, you
like I'm
don't want to
bothering
bother him."
people. Yeah, I
Yeah,
always feel like I'm
right.
bothering him, except for John Russo. I never feel like I'm bothering John Russo when I badger him with questions.
Well,
No one else is talking to him.
I just told a story about John Russo on the episode that we just recorded.
Oh,
I was originally
I
going
made the
to his
same
film
Vince Russo
school.
joke too. So
Yeah, he beat you to it. Um, and he had my phone number, and he would call me. And I was like moving a couch one day for my aunt. Like they were moving, and my phone rings, and this is so many years ago. This is before smartphones and stuff. I had like a red Slide Razor, and I get this random phone call, and I don't know who it is, and I answer it, and it's like, "Hey, this is John Russo. Just calling to chat." Like, man, John
I would have
Russo has
probably
my
jumped out
phone
my
number.
window in sheer excitement. I have
Yeah.
I have a signed Majorettes poster that has coffee all over it. He's like, "This is the only one I have left." I'm like, "That's the one I want, the junkiest one." I have that and a really junky looking Midnight poster on my steps, like in like a place of honor, like because they're the most yinzery movies ever. So I love both of them so much. I love that when saw him the last time, I got him to sign my Severin copy of Midnight, and he's like, "Who put this out?" And I was like, "You don't
Oh,
know?"
he didn't even know.
No, he's like, "Is this new?" I'm like, "Yeah, it just came out." That's my most exciting Severin thing is that my quotes on the back of it, and I'm like, if any movie I could be on, if it was either gonna be Night Killer or Midnight, like those are the two movies that I talk about the most, and so I was happy to get on Midnight.
Yeah, yeah, it's cool that you're on there, but like, how did he not know? Why did they not reach out to him for like some kind of bonus content or something?
I've heard that he's very difficult to work with from a few folks, so I'm wondering if they just went through what's his name, Sam Sherman, who produced it, and just because Sam Sherman's on it, just an audio interview with him. But I think sometimes that's a little easier. It depends. It's crazy, like because we've been getting involved in bonus stuff for a lot of visual vengeance stuff, and it's really crazy how stuff comes together. Where it's like you literally have like a day, and they'll call you like, "Hey, can you do a commentary for this movie? When do you need it? Friday." Okay, and
Tomorrow.
so you got to watch it like 6 times, and then especially for their movies, like outside of like Suburban Sasquatch, some of the films we've done, like there's nothing, no one on IMDb has reviewed it sometimes, or maybe one person has. So that's really exciting to me because it's like, cool, this is like, you know, untrod upon ground, right?
Yeah.
Not
How
not to
many
divert from the topic here, but since you talked about Suburban Sasquatch, have you guys ever seen The Legend of Boggy Creek?
Oh yeah, saw it at the drive-in.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like from what, like a 72 or 78 or something like that. It's somewhere in there. It's so hard to find.
Oh,
Not anymore.
there's a new
Yeah.
Blu-ray. Yeah,
There's a
yeah,
4K actually.
Yeah, you can buy it on their website, but like if
yeah.
you're trying to find it, and there's I didn't realize this till the other night. There's a second version of it.
Yeah.
And the
Who
legend
The
just
Boggy
continues.
who just put that out?
continues, right?
Vinegar Syndrome put it out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Oh,
Vinegar.
did they?
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
It's not
Oh
good.
man.
It's
Oh,
a
okay.
Mystery Science Theater did it too. It's definitely you need something like that to get through it. But the original is directed by the same guy that did Town of Dreaded Sundown, which is one of my favorite movies.
Okay.
So I love the first one because it's very Sun Classic 70s, like, is this BS or not? Like where it's
Yeah.
like some of it's recreation,
Yeah.
some of it's actual people. And like I love that his films are all like shot in like Texarkana because his theory was like the regional horror, and it's like no one was making movies for that audience. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
for southern Southwest drive-in
It was
audience. So
it
they're
was
like,
very Arkansas, right? Like
yeah,
that's
like
where
we get to see our people in it, our stories, and like everybody knew about the Fook monster, and it's like, yeah, I love that movie. It's really scary in parts too. It's got some really cool stuff in it.
the scene with the RV.
Oh yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
we talk about
actually
RV movies a lot. That's one of our RV favorites.
It's
I, what other movies would you throw into an RV category? Like off
Oh,
the top of
the
my head.
uh, Hills Have
Smurfs
Eyes.
movie.
Hills Have
Yeah,
Eyes
Hills
is
Have Eyes
definitely,
would be one.
yeah, and what's the other one with Peter Fonda where they're motorcycle racers? The one Devil Worship one. There's that. I guess you could. Uh, I have to start a letterbox list for it. I do the dumbest letterbox lists all the time. My favorite one is movies where milk is used to kill people, and I have like 35 movies on it. Because it started with Four Flies on Gray Velvet, because like that has that really intense scene of like milk. Uh, is it Four Flies or is it? It's the other one with Crum Alden that has the milk in it. But yeah, I love like spoiled milk, and then I'm doing another one of radios thrown in bathtubs to kill people. Because like
Okay, yeah, that's an interesting
I
one
like
too.
that one.
that
Yeah.
shows up in a lot of movies too. Yeah, so I'm a fan. My other list is movies where Wasp shows up. The band Wasp.
The
Well, I
band.
was just gonna say the band was what's his name?
Blackie Lawless.
Yeah.
Blackie. That's it. Blackie.
He's
Lawless.
also in Can't Stop the Music, the Village People movie. He tries out for the Village People in it. And then
whatever happened, he went through this phase where he
he's
was
Christian
born
now,
again.
yeah.
But
Yeah,
but
all
he
their
kind of
albums are
reverted back.
concept.
But
concept
he
albums.
reverted back a little bit because he's playing F like an animal again.
Isn't
in
he
the
doing
full
Wasp
lyrics.
music now?
Yeah. Chris Holmes is still alive, which is the most amazing thing if you've seen Decline of Our Certain Civilization too. Like he should not be alive, and he is. He's still touring and doing his own thing. The guy who did the special effects for this movie, John Buchler, who also did Friday the New Blood, but he did Dungeon Master, which is a movie that has
Oh,
Wasp
yeah,
in it.
fantastic.
AKA
movie.
Rage War.
Love.
That's the Euro
Yeah.
title. Yeah. I'll tell you what, that Arrow set that they put out with all that era's movies, the pre-full moon ones, that set's awesome because it also has Arena and Robot Jocks, which is
Yeah.
I searched for Robot Jocks, God, from video store to video store when it came out because nobody got it, and I don't know if it was like that for you guys too. Like our video stores, like they didn't have the Burning and they didn't have the Prowler, like all these ones that are like classic, like Fangoria talked about them all the time. Our store never got them, but yet we got all the Wizard Video big boxes, and we got a lot of Troma stuff. So it was like when I moved to Pittsburgh for college, that's other kids were trying to get laid and party. And I was like, I'm going to go search out video stores, and that's what I did.
I was blessed, man. Kiski Valley Video in Leechburg had everything, and their mainstream cinema section was the smallest section out of everything. So like a lot of the stuff that I kind of fell in love with came from checking that store out, going there with my buddies. We kind of always took turns introducing each other to stuff. And that video store was the catalyst. That's why we bought up all the old VHS when it was going out of business. But if you went in there looking for like Transformers, you weren't going to find it, but you could find all of this stuff. And I guess they had like a huge back room of like porn and stuff that we never checked out, but we were too caught up in.
Don't lie.
One of them may have, but
Heads Together and Squirrel Hill had the crazy section with it. Literally had like saloon doors, and when you opened them, like they were so loud that everybody knew you were going back there. But yeah,
you just have to embrace it. It's like, yep, that's gonna happen.
They may have had an unedited copy of Barbara Broadcast that I stole before they went out of business. I was like, well, where else am I going to find a Henry Pritchard movie like this? But yeah, I wish I had movies. Primetime Video was mine in Elwood City, and I wish I had either a movie from there or like the carpet, because the carpet when you walked in had their logo. Like I'm sure you guys are the same way. Like everybody has. You find all this Blockbuster ephemera now at Walmart and stuff, and I'm like, I don't want any of that shit. I want stuff for my video store, and Blockbuster put my video store out of business. That's the stuff that I want. The coolest thing I have for my hometown is I have from Fisher's Big Wheel. I have a Betamax copy of House on the Edge of the Park that I got for a quarter. Yeah, and like one, why would that be sold in a Fisher's Big Wheel? Two, why would it be sold in Elwood City? And why
for
would
a quarter?
And the cover says David Hess is back. Who in the early 80s in small town America would care about David Hess other than me, right? And so I'm like, this is the shit. So it's on my shelf. So like how you said, like if you got rid of all your stuff, like what would you keep? Like probably that Betamax, and like maybe like my Italian cover of Night Killer, the Don't Open the Door, 3-1. Those are about the only things I would keep. I'm sure there's like 50 other things. If there was a fire, like it'd be hard to get in.
Real quick, I got on the spot this just because I wanted to do this. Drew, favorite movie ever?
Favorite movie ever?
Right now, on the spot. Come on, no thinking. Just Tremors. Sam.
Mario Bava's Danger Diabolic.
Me, Twister. Boom,
Twister?
done.
Are you excited for Twisters?
Dude,
that to me looks like they're taking an IP and kind of ruining a legacy.
Yeah. The pinball game's great though. I will say the Twister.
I've played the pinball game actually in over by Youngstown. There's a place that has like this big pinball. I forget the name, but I'm sorry, pinball guys. But they had the Twister pinball in there. It's cool thing. I'm keeping my mind open on this one because I want to like it. I want to like it so bad, man. Like, why was Twister so good?
You know, I
And
never
then-
saw it. My wife loves it, and she made me watch it this year.
My dad took me there when I was when it
Oh.
came out in 97, 98, when I was like
Yeah.
7 or 8 years old. I was scared to death of thunderstorms for years.
Well,
But it became
a Twister took out my childhood drive-in, Spotlight 88. In Beacon
Oh,
Falls.
of
So,
course,
like-
because well, that's in the movie too. It
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah, so like I was already mad about that part. Also,
But-
like that lady made all that food for him, and I'm like, that food looked real good. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't care.
Steak and
if it's
eggs,
what it
Meg.
is. Yeah.
Steak and eggs.
Yeah, the gravy and stuff. Like, yeah. I also feel really bad for his fiance in that movie because like she
Yeah.
gets stuck in the car with all those dudes and they're talking, tornadoes are awesome, bro. And like she's like, I love this guy, but he's in love with tornadoes and his ex-wife. We can all tell. Like they should have just had sex on the hood right when they saw each other, you know? The suck
Yeah,
zone. They got in the suck zone.
That is a great movie. We were talking about starting a hardcore band entirely based off of Twister themes.
Oh. I had a doom metal band that
We-
did all Amicus songs. So I mean anything's possible, right?
The band
What-
is going to happen. It's called Wichita, by the
Oh.
way. It's coming. Just wait.
Oh man.
Whatever happened with Can't, your band? I remember you were like performing in Pittsburgh, and
A lot,
then
yeah. The guitarist is in a new band. Well, not new band. They've been around a while, but Pyreath, and they were like they're on Metal Blade, and they were in the top 10 metal albums released last year. They're really good.
Oh, seriously?
So, and he's
What was
also in
the
another band called Pyreath, and then he's in an. I hope I'm saying that right. And he's in an. He has his own one-man band called Blow Cunning, which is Dungeon Synth NES themes.
Dude,
and-
I loved. Well, I'm here for the dungeon synth.
Yeah, and
I'm
all his
here for the
releases
dungeon
come
synth.
with like role-playing games and like
that's awesome.
video game levels and stuff. Yeah, Zach's his name. He's awesome. We're all still friends. We've talked about Haas, the other guitarist, and I've talked about doing like a Paul Diano era metal, like Maiden era, because I can't sing like Bruce Dickinson. I can sing like Paul Diano, and
Very
maybe
few
doing
people
something
can.
with that. Yeah, but we had like a song. We did Nature Trail to Hell from Weird Al. We did that a lot live, and then we had one song that was all about Mask of the Red Death, the Corman movie, which is a really important movie to me. And there's another one, literally Tales from the Crypt, all about the Amicus movie. And then our one song, I can't remember what the title of it is. It's literally Connell Cochran's speech from Halloween 3, like almost word for word, like about they were in the mud pits and waiting for the spirits to come. That whole speech, a trick on the children. That's my favorite line he says in that movie. If I still had the band now, Bill and I would do a song about Mrs. Voorhees, because we talk about her all the time. Like his Mrs. Voorhees impression makes me laugh every time. Like he gets so excited about it.
I did find Pyreath on Bandcamp.
Yeah, they're awesome. They're really good. So, but yeah, I was in another one called. I just like playing music. I'd like to do it again, but I watch too many movies. I watch like 5 movies a day, and I got to write about them.
Yeah, that's kind of. I've always wanted to do the music stuff, and we always get to like a certain point, and then I have so many other things that kind of. Honestly, I'm not good at it. Like I want nothing more than to be a metal vocalist.
Drew, we wrote songs like
I know.
We've
I've participated in actual band creation and have never followed through.
And you also got Jackknife. Drew got Jackknife power bombed at an Agnostic Front concert.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
The scariest thing was like we had to open for I love when things happen with like a day's notice, right? So we opened for I Hate God and we had like 24 hours notice. So I couldn't like back out, right? We played at Alder Bar and it was crazy because I wasn't nervous until like I saw their road cases and they all had down road cases. And I was like, down's like super important to me, And I was like, great. So I'm like, how do you react to the situation? I just go get high and go. So that entire set, I'm like, and I realized the Alder Bar had stained glass windows, and I'm just like, the whole show. Like, I'm like, I don't even know how I sang. I guess I did fine. I've never seen it. I don't want to see it. I don't want to know. But it was like that's the way to deal with it. When you play with a band like that, you super into.
The Altar Bar is where Drew got that Jackknife power.
Oh, is it okay? Awesome.
Yeah.
I saw
One thing
Earth there,
remember
which is a much more chill show than Agnostic.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
Before
Well,
Agnostic Front played, there was a band called Ruiner. I don't know if you're familiar with them. They disbanded pretty quickly after they started to make it. But they had opened and they were like, "Hey, we need a place to crash." And I was like, "You know what? My grandma's house sounds like a good place for Ruiner to crash."
Oh, yeah.
So I go over to their merch table after they performed. And I'm like, I gave them my
No,
grandma's
no, no, no.
address.
He's selling it short because they announced like their mid performance. They said, "Hey, if anybody has a place crash, let us know." And I can't remember if Drew said it or I said this dude right here. And Drew's like, "Yeah, my grandma, my grandma's."
I gave them my grandma's address, and this is years ago. So I probably
2009.
yeah, 2009. I called her to let her know that I was having some people come crash. Well, not crash, but like
people.
I called her. I'm like, "Hey, is it cool if if I'm in the area, if I bring some people over?" And she's like, "Yeah, that's fine." Well, then instead of being a good person and getting to her house and getting the house prepped for Ruiner,
Oh, we effed around.
John and I went to Denny's or Eaton Park and just ignored the situation.
Denny's. We went to Denny's.
And I get there, I don't even know how long Ruiner's just there hanging out with my grandma.
They're watching The Late Show, drinking beer with his grandma.
It was a 9-piece deathcore band.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
That's
they
awesome.
just all slept on the floor at my grandma's house.
Couches, floors.
I live too far from the city now to have bands crash. I live like in Monongahela, so like it's like a good hour or so.
So I gotta give a shout out to one band real quick since we're on here and we're talking about this. So I might have a band staying here early next month. Voluntary Mortification.
Oh man.
Look them up. They're awesome. Awesome.
You're from around Cleveland, is where you're from?
Cleveland area, yeah. But
Yeah.
they're from Michigan, but
Oh, okay.
Voluntary
You
Mortification.
got Midnight from you, so I mean you already have a great band from around you.
Yes.
And Acid Witch is from around there, aren't they?
Acid Witches, yeah.
Acid Witch is awesome.
They're from Columbus, right?
Columbus, yeah.
Close
But I mean, they did a whole album with the Fastaway songs from Trick or Treat. So I mean, if any band, Drew, are you excited about the Trick or Treat 4K? If it ever comes out?
Oh man, I would absolutely love it, but that film has eluded me forever. So like it's hard to even get my hopes up about it because I feel like I've been talking to people about a new Blu-ray scan or something of that movie for
supposedly
10 years
Blue Underground's putting it out. That's the rumor. And they've talked about it a couple times. I just got their Goodbye Uncle Tom, and it's crazy. Like who ever thought that movie would come out on 4K with like the Italian, the American cut, and the Rizzo Ortolandi soundtrack? Like my wife's like, why do you need to have this? And I'm like, this is such an offensive movie. And I'm like, yeah, but it exists. It's like it's awesome.
You're right. It exists, so that we need to have it. That's why.
Yeah.
Like my wife absolutely like doesn't even participate. Like if she walked in on the stuff that I watched, like I think she would sleep in a separate room.
Yeah. I think it's some movies she does, but like there's other ones like obviously Anytime, like a lot of Jalo, it's like, no, I don't want.
Yeah.
And then like especially like the deeper you go into Jess Franco and those movies, she's like, no, I'm not interested at all.
I had Phenomena on.
Oh, she loves that movie though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I can't even remember what part. It was like one of the parts with the monkey, and my wife just was like, I can't with this. And I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna finish this movie then. I'll see you
It's
later.
funny because there's some Argento people that don't like Phenomena, and I think that they're wrong. Like I think that's still when he's kind of going on all gears. Like it's so weird and
yeah, it took me. I'll be honest, it did take me more than one viewing to really appreciate it because the first time I watched it, I kind of had that same thought, but then I was like, well, maybe like he was working with what's her name? I can't even remember.
Oh, Jennifer Connelly.
Yeah, he was working with Connelly and maybe I don't know. So I had to like watch it a couple of times before I really appreciated just how wild and wonky it was.
I think if you saw the Creepers cut too, the American cut, it's not as good. It's really
that might have been the version that I watched.
Yeah,
I know that 4K has all of the cuts.
Yeah,
and so
I originally rented it from a Eagle Video had Creepers. How weird is that? That's where the first place I saw because I got the artwork.
Yeah, that
is so
is
cool.
great.
and I was like, man, it was on a spinner rack. And I remember just staring at it, and then I got it. I'm like, this movie's weird. I don't know. I probably wasn't ready for it. It's funny to me because like my parents, one of their first dates, they saw Bird with the Crystal Plumage, and they
I was
hated
just
it.
gonna bring that movie up. I was just gonna do it.
They hate it, and like anytime like there was like a barometer of what a bad movie was, that was always brought up. And now my mom always does.
Really?
She's like, yeah, she's like, do you just like these movies to be rebellious? And I'm like, no, I really love it. I love that movie. I think it's the greatest movie, and she doesn't enjoy it. So, oh well, to each their own, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, we talked about doing like a full-on Giallo episode at some point,
Yeah.
which I'm looking forward to because I'm a guy that I enjoy them and I've seen
Uh-huh.
them. I'm definitely an Italian cinema fan, but that genre has been the least viewed by me. So there are
Oh wow.
some of these movies I actually haven't even seen yet. Like I'm seeing them for the first time a lot with these 4K releases that I've been buying.
See that I wish that I could see them again for the first time because like that first feeling of seeing them is like amazing. Did you go to the drive-in when they did the Monsterama when they did the Giallo weekend?
I can't remember.
Oh,
I definitely. What movies did they have?
they played Bird. What have you done with Solange? Torso.
Oh no, the last one that I made it to had Pieces.
Oh yeah.
So it's been a
When
while. I don't always make it to the drive-ins. Like I'm like every sporadically. Like I'll make it like once every 1 or 2 years.
they there was a whole family sitting next to me, like in the cars next to us, like and they had young kids, and I'm like, "What have you done with Solange? It's a rough movie." Like Joe
Yeah.
D'Amato was the cinematographer for it, so I should tell you one thing. And like it starts with like an abortion scene. It has like someone get killed with a knife in their nether regions. Like it goes all the way. Like it's rough. And like I looked at Bill. I said, "These kids are like I don't. I think they think this is like Friday the 13th. I think they think this is a slasher." And then like the car was gone within the first 10 minutes. They were just like dumbfounded. But Giallo is hard to watch at the drive-in because it like requires you to pay attention. Versus like a lot of Italian exploitation cinema was made to be played in outdoor screens. Like they would have these outdoor screens where people would drink and eat around them. So like that's why something happens every 2 or 3 minutes because otherwise people are going to talk through the movie. So they're like, hit people with stuff.
They had to bring the tension back. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So like, and they would play in the provinces. They wouldn't play in the cities. Like when I've talked to people from Italy, like, yeah, you had to go to really rough areas to see those movies. And I'm like,
Well,
yeah,
even look at the
it's America.
spaghetti westerns and the
Yeah.
way they were filmed. Like a lot of them were like their snap photography. Like they'd have a scene, talking scene, nothing, and then they'd snap to, something else.
The super zooms are always because it's cheaper than doing a two-shot. You just do a zoom within the shot. That's full cheese trick. I think that's why I was thinking about barbarian movies before, because obviously this episode's about that. And and like
Was
at this
about
time, like after Conan, like I love when movies start a cottage industry, right? Like Mad Max is one. I guess Mad Max and the Warriors are two movies that start a cottage industry in Italy, and like definitely Conan is. But what's funny is like the Italian industry was totally ready to do Conan ripoffs because they had already done Pebblo movies. So they're like, yeah, let's just make the movies we made 30 years ago. And in the same way, like the spaghetti westerns are the same movies as Road Warrior ripoffs. They just have instead of horses, they have cars. But it's the same idea. You have like a silent hero. Like Mad Max is a western. Fury Roads definitely feels like a western. And so I was really hoping that Fury Road was going to lead the. There's no Italian exploitation real industry as much anymore, but God, if there was, like, we would have got so many cool movies because I love the Italy and the Philippines are two countries that know how to make a post-apocalyptic movie. And then I would say like Argentina, well, Roger Corman in Argentina is one group, and then the Italians know how to make it too because the Ator movies are awesome, especially the third one is like a music video. It's crazy. Like it has nothing to do with the other ones. Like it's very similar to this, where it's all over the place.
I remember I definitely watched the first Ator. I don't know if I've ever seen any sequels.
The second one, Blade Master played as cave dwellers on Mystery Science Theater, which because it's a crazy trick. Is like FBI owned all of those, and like, well, they didn't own them. They took them and put their own titles because they figured that they could, if they there was like a copyright loophole they did where if they made titles, everything else in the middle was like their commentary on the movie. So they put new titles in the beginning and end, and then they sold it to TV. I don't know how you do that. But yeah, they did it. So that's how Cave Dwellers got on there. Yeah, but all four Ator movies are pretty good. I like that, especially in the third one or the second one, they recycled the costumes from Troll 2, which were left over, and brought them back to Italy from America and use them. And my all-time favorite thing about the Troll 2 costumes is Laura Gemser designed the Black Emmanuel. She did all the clothing for it, and I love that she was the translator for Troll 2 between the Italian crew and the Americans. And like those American people were just like, "Oh, who is this pretty girl that's like Black Emmanuel? Like, what is going on?like?"
Did you get that? Did you get that box set?
No, it's a sore point. I don't. I'm not allowed to have it. That's the one I can justify. I can't justify
contraband.
Yeah,
I didn't buy it yet either, but a buddy of mine, he showed it to me and was pulling all the discs out, and I was
that's awesome.
I was surprised by how nice that set actually came out.
They do a great job on everything they put out. Like it's gorgeous stuff. But yeah, it's like anytime. My worry is always like, especially these like Italian Gothic sets, because that's one of my big obsessions. And it's like every time one comes out, it's like, man, I need all four of those movies. Like Renato Pacelli is one of my favorite directors, and like one of his movies is in the first set, but it's like $80. And I'm like, but then I think I've spent $150 on a French Blu-ray of Spookies. So like, anything goes, right?
Hey, dude, speaking of Spookies, Frank Farrell's coming on with us next week.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. I talked to him. We had like a little conference because he wanted to make sure that we weren't like, I think he wanted to make sure that we weren't time wasters.
Yeah.
And he told me
which we are.
Yeah. Anybody watching knows that about us. But he said that, he quit doing podcasts and interviews for a long time because once you started talking to them, it became abundantly clear they'd never seen the movies.
Oh.
And I was like, if I could just pause you there and let you know that I own the Vinegar Syndrome Spookies and the Synapse Street Trash. And Street Trash is easily my top 3, if not top 2 favorite movies of all time. And he immediately just was like warmed up to me and was like, all right, yeah, man, let's do this. So I'm actually really
I've not
pumped.
seen Spookies, but I've seen Street Trash, so I'm halfway
you need
there.
to see Spookies immediately. You should
go
watch
Spookies is wild, man. Yeah.
Listen, I don't do anything at work, so I'll watch it tomorrow.
That's the first movie we showed on our show was Spookies, like because I love it so much.
Yeah, I remember because I had reached out to you because this was before I had started, talking about all this stuff. We were just doing the paranormal podcast, and years ago when I was doing Zombie Apocalypse, which we just brought back tonight, I had this idea like, well, why don't we reach out to Frank Farrell? He was in Dawn of the Dead, he has, and everyone basically looked at me like I was nuts. Like my ambitions for our shows are always kind of seen as crazy and out of this world, and I'm thinking too highly of us or something. But I was like, he's a cool dude. Like, let's reach out to him. So I had talked to him, and then I'd like let you know that. Like, I remember sending you a message that he seems receptive to being on podcasts, and then you told me that you had done Spookies. So,
I love it. It's funny they did it. They showed it at Smiling Moose. They did one of those bad movie bingos, and they did trivia questions because they gave away Richard Corbin, the artist that did like Den from Heavy Metal, and he did the Bat Out of Hell album cover for Meatloaf. He did the poster for Spookies. And I'm like, man, I want that poster so bad. So when they started asking trivia questions, 3 in, they're like, you're not allowed to answer any more trivia questions. Because I was like, saying, like, before there was, I'm like, I love this movie way too much. So,
yeah, it's really good. But yeah, so that's something. Like, another thing that completely sidelined the topic there. But yeah,
no, it's good. I'm excited to hear that. That's awesome.
But just to clarify, I want to add a clarifying point here. Drew says that he's wacko and out here, and everybody thinks he's crazy for all these ideas. He emailed the Vatican.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I did email the Vatican to get the Pope on the show, and I have not heard back. But there has to be an intern at the Vatican that read my invitation.
As Catholic as I am, they still won't talk to me. So.
But yeah, haven't heard back from the Pope or the ICP, but
Oh, they should
Frank
totally do
Farrell.
it. The closest,
I
the
forgot
coolest
about
person. We almost got Linda Blair to be on our show.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we got a really nice letter back that she doesn't do shows anymore, etc. And my favorite part of it was she said she doesn't remember any of the movies that you brought up as your favorites. I'm like, oh, she doesn't remember being in Grotesque or Pray for the Jaguar, and
Well,
no,
of
she
course
does not remember these movies. I'm like,
Of course not.
yeah. Oh well.
Yeah, but if you had picked something like The Exorcist,
Yeah.
you might have reconsidered. On that note, we also have scheduled Sandy Johnson
Oh wow.
from Halloween, and so yeah, I've been reaching out to some actual, like, I consider you a name, honestly. And
No.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I have been bugging you on the internet as a fan for 20 years at least. So this is a treat for me. I remember
Oh.
outside of the Big Butler Fair many years ago, we had met you before a show, and you took a picture and you had told us that it better not wind up on the internet or you were going to beat our asses. And to this day, it's not on the internet
Oh man.
because
I'm given to say really crazy things in person, and then like I'm always like, why do I say stuff like that?
Yeah. Well, now that he said that, I'm posting it on the internet right
Okay,
now.
that's cool. Go ahead. I mean, I'm retired now, so anything goes, right? I'm always freaked out though whenever like we have like guests on like because they mean a lot to us. And like one of the things we're finding now is like, especially because we show such deep cut movies, like the people in them haven't seen their movies or they haven't thought about them in a long time. And they're like, are you guys gonna, get on and make fun of me or is this like a mystery science theater kind of experience? And no, it's like we genuinely love your movie. Do you know what I mean? And Bill especially, like he's really he's such a lover of certain movies. Like Terror at Red Wolf Inn is a big one. And like we had Linda Gillen on the show, who's like one of the sweetest people in the world. And it's like, but we always look at it as like our goal is like you said, like by watching my TV or watching Comment is like we don't have a lot of experiences anymore where you pick all your culture now, right? Like you can watch
Right.
anything you want anytime. We kind of look at it, it's like, well, I don't want to get like too highfalutin or elevated, but it's like, we're kind of curating this, or like we're just picking a movie for you to watch. And a lot of times people are like, I would have never watched that movie. Now, 90% of the time, people sometimes hate that and they hate some of the movies we pick. And we have a pretty vociferous chat room where they're like, they'll say, I hated that. But like, I love when somebody says, like, I would have, like, The Black Room is one that Vinegar Syndrome put out a couple months ago. We showed that last year because we love that movie. And it's like, to get people into it and get people excited about it for something that we were obsessed about, that's a really cool feeling, to get
Yeah.
people into it. My dream movie to show right now is the Mummy Theme Park, which is an Italian shot in one room movie. The same guy did Plankton, which Shriek Show put out a couple years ago. He was an effects guy. He did the effects for Tentacles and a few other movies, but all his
It's
movies.
Plankton, the sequel to SpongeBob.
No, this movie is a slasher set on a super intelligent ship that watches people have sex, but it's all like, imagine if Pee-wee's Playhouse was like a slasher set on a ship.
Sounds
it's
insane.
Everything
crazy.
you said has completely sold me.
He made 5 movies. This director, I got a chance to talk to him briefly. His English is as good as my Italian, and but his everything he did is incredible. Like, the Mummy Theme Park's on Tubi, which is mind blowing that it's out there. I love what I love about Tubi is like it's kind of like you were talking about how Walmart when you could buy or a video store when you could find these movies. I always love the idea that someone could potentially rent this movie, and like I imagine like somebody bought or rented like Last House on Dead End Street or like the Mummy Theme Park or like one of these really aberrant movies, and they're like, what did I just watch? Like it like assaults you. And Chiller Theater was like that too, because there's all these Spanish horror movies that ran on Chiller Theater. And it's like Marta, which was one of my obsessions. And like I imagine dudes got home from working at the steel mill and all of a sudden they're watching a Jess Franco movie or like a movie with Nieves Navarro in it or a Jolly and all these played on Chiller. And it's like they're like, what is going on with Chili Billy? Like, why is he showing? Like for a whole 6 months, he had in the 60s they showed movies on a set, like a living room set, and he showed like a divorce Italian style and all these Sophia Loren movies, and they were like these super high end movies but Italian untranslated movies, that he introduced, and then the night one was like the horror movies, and that to me that's totally where Count Floyd got that episode where he's showing the Bergman movie and he has to explain it to kids. Like that has to come from that, because it's but
For sure.
I think we're lucky that if you grew up with the chance to watch, even if it was Night Flight or Joe Bob or Up All Night on USA, like if you had a host guiding you through those shows, like you had a real opportunity to experience something that nobody does anymore. So we're trying to do that. I'm no Rhonda Shearer, but
I love it.
And again, I don't want to take away from Sven Gulli either, because Sven Gulli is awesome.
Oh, he's awesome. Yeah.
I love Sven Gulli.
Did you get the Sven Gulli in Late Night with the Devil? There's a Sven Gulli reference.
Late Night with the Devil, yeah.
Yeah, they mentioned Berwyn. I was so excited. I was like, oh man, that's awesome.
Yeah, that movie was great.
Like the pentagram was in the beginning of it. Like and the beginning looked just like The Killing of America. When that happened, I was like, I'm gonna love this movie no matter what happens. And then there's a ripoff of Witchcraft 70 later with like all the quasi Anton LaVey stuff, and I was like,
yeah,
they already sold me. Like this could suck. Everything after this could suck, and I'm gonna love this movie.
Take my money.
Yeah, but we were talking about the show that you guys do. I've been tuning in a lot, especially lately. And for a while, I was working on other people's shows and working as like moderators on lives, and I completely stepped away from doing that so I could focus on watching movies with you guys.
Oh,
and
thank you.
Like I love. First of all, I have that same admiration and respect for horror hosting. I've been wanting to do a similar show myself for years. But I want to do like a full-on actual in-character thing, and I want to try to figure out how to like risk being shut down and actually play the movie along with it. But one thing that I absolutely love is when you guys bring up like the old posters for these movies, and like you or Bill will like, oh, check this poster out, and then here's one from this random country, and that is an attention to detail that you don't often see on even like the larger scale horror hosted shows. So that like attention to detail shows the level of respect that you guys have for what you're doing. And that's something that, as someone with that same kind of, I don't know, I almost want to call it like a tick, to have every bit of information, to see every single poster, or like whatever that is, that's in our brains. I love when you guys do that.
It's Bill's obsessed with it. Like his whole zine, that's what it started as. And our biggest obsession is alternate titles for movies. And a lot of times when we talk to each other, this is how the show started. It's like during COVID, we would text each other, we'd watch a movie together, and we're like, we should do this with other people, because the dumb stuff we do, like we always refer to movies by the wrong title, like the alternate title, like The Prowler's Rosemary's Killer, and like Pigs could be Daddy's Deadly Darling, or one of 15 titles. And I just love that. I love that it's like these are the Starlight Swamp is Eaten Alive, and these like really weird titles. And that's the coolest thing to me in movies. Like it blows my mind that some of these movies played for 20 years at drive-ins under like 50 titles, 15 titles maybe. Yeah. His Christmas gift this year was a poster of They're Coming to Get You, which is the American title of All the Colors in the Dark. And the poster looks like a Night of the Living Dead ripoff. It's not. And the movie stops with 20 minutes left of the movie. And the American cut doesn't make any sense. And it's like, wow. But like we're always like, I wish they made that movie, the poster, because the poster's cool. The other cool one is the American poster for Lizard in a Woman's Skin, Schizoid. And it has a woman coming out of a cave and all these bats are attacking her. That scene is like 5 seconds in Fulci's movie, but that's the whole ad campaign in America. How rad's that? Like that's what it's about. It's totally not what it's about. But yeah, thank you. That's my favorite thing about movies.
What my favorite movie poster is? Totally honest. It's Star Trek. It's the Japanese version of Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. You have the Enterprise, you have the Reliant, and they're both in like that middle phase where like they're all cloaked and stuff. And you have Kirk and you have Khan. That is the best. I have it down in my game room, and it's the coolest poster.
No movie has ever been more better than the original than that movie. Like it blows away. the original. There's another horror host actually from your way. You know Lenora from Midnight Rental? Have you ever seen her?
No, I don't.
She's
actually.
she works with Found Footage Fest, and she opens for them, but she has a channel, a show on their channel, and it's really good. It's fun.
I think I'm friends with her on Facebook, JC.
Really?
Yeah, she's from
Yeah.
around Cleveland. Yeah, but when Found Footage comes here, those guys always bring her in. Like she did a really great opening this time where she showed a lot of Hospital Massacre and did commentary throughout.
okay.
And I was like, wow, that's AK X-ray. They showed a lot of that. So, which also has Barbie Benton, who's in the movie we're supposed to be talking about.
Right. we
This-
had like full on ADHD here tonight. About, like,
I'm the worst because I go on tangents so bad.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
do
but
too.
Barbie Benton's co-Dill in this, and she was obviously Hugh Hefner's girlfriend for a while. Pretty famous for being on Fantasy Island and Love Boat, and also never a Playmate of the Month, but was on the covers, 4 different covers and 2 layouts in Playboy. Like for somebody that doesn't care about Playboy, I always list when someone's a Playmate of the Month. I don't know why. That seemed like when we were young, it seemed like a bigger deal. Today, it's like there's not even anything like it, you know. So
yeah.
but that's kind of was like you got that. You'd say that, well, they got a couple Playmates in this. Like, well, that's all we need to make a movie.
Right. I think our generation kind of was on the tail end of that, where like the big thing about being a playmate was in basketball with Victoria Silvstedt.
Yeah.
And that was like the
Yeah.
last time I could recall anybody like being known or kind of put on a pedestal for that, and it
Oh.
was almost in jest in the film itself. Anyway.
Oh yeah, it's the other really famous or infamous maybe person in this movie is Lana Clarkson, who played Kara in this, and she was in Warrior Queen 1 and 2, Barbarian Queen. She's in a lot of stuff. She was Vincent Chiavelli's wife in Fast Times at Ridgemont High, but probably most famously she was killed by Phil Spector. So she's in a ton of these Corman Barbarian movies as well.
That is Phil Spector, the victim of Phil.
Mm.
Oh wow!
Oh yeah,
I didn't know that.
yeah. And then the craziest role that somebody else had in this is Munkar, who's the bad guy. It's Bernard Erhard. Not only was he the voice of Psykill on GoBots, there's an American Gladiator show, didn't play in Pittsburgh, called Knights and Warriors. That was, remember when like there were that year after American Gladiators, we got like Grudge Match and all these other shows. Knights and Warriors was like a medieval times themed one, and he was the Lord of Rules and Discipline, like the referee on that show. I guess he was parlaying his fame from this movie into that. And obviously, Ogress, who's one of the gladiators, is Richard Brooker, who's Jason from Friday.
I actually have the Friday the 13th. I was going to say that.
Oh, sorry, I mean to steal your thunder.
No, it's okay.
I got excited he was in this because this has 2 Friday the 13th people with Bouchard, because he directed New Blood. That's another thing lost on people. You remember what a big deal it was when a new Friday came out? Like you're like, we're going to the theater and seeing this the first day. I remember seeing
all the time.
I saw the one in Youngstown where they the FBI catches Jason in Youngstown and the crowd went nuts. They're like, yeah, like we're the murder capital of the world and Jason's here. Like, yeah, this is
yeah, it blows my mind. It has been over 20 years.
Oh.
And like, I don't know who's to blame. I don't know if it's Cunningham. I don't know if it's the other people, but man, it honestly kind of sour me on Cunningham's work. Like I was thinking the other day how I have not been able to watch any of his movies because I irrationally hold him responsible for the 13th IP up.
Irrationally.
Is it
irrationally?
Is it better that there's not a new Friday the 13th?
No, well, I need more. I want Friday the 13th, like part 20.
Here's the thing, and we can argue it. You could chastise me. We could agree to disagree. I thought the remake was solid. It was like a nice love letter. The first 10 minutes or so summed up the franchise and then did its own thing. And I also, being a giant Supernatural fan, like Jared Padalecki, so everything about that movie delivered for me. and I understand that everybody's gripes on it, but I would have loved to see a follow up to that movie.
But it's like if I get a Friday the 13th, it's like the Strangers remake or like the last three Halloweens. Like I'm going to be upset. So it's
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
and I
Uh,
kind of don't want, and I know that like I I don't want to be. I am that old guy screaming at the cloud, and I know I'm going to be like, oh, this sucks. But it's like I don't know. As I get older, like even the slashers that weren't good, like Hell Night, like are suddenly way better than anything that's coming out today. And it's like I wanted to get excited about a slasher, and none of them get the stuff that I like. Right, like the idea that someone is hunting someone and coming after them, and that like tension as they come and get them. Like there's none of that in these movies anymore. So it's upsetting.
yeah, that's true. Now there is that new, what is it? IFC's putting out a movie that follows the
Oh yeah,
Jason
yeah,
character, basically.
yeah.
I thought that looked pretty sick. It's coming out, I think, this month or next month. But
Yeah, I saw about that and I was like, here's the thing that don't you I don't know if you get into the same thing too. It's like whenever someone really hypes something, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna end up hating it.
no, yeah, I'm like that too. But I was like completely surprised by how much I really liked. We talked about the Late Night with the Devil. That came
Yeah.
out with
Yeah.
like incredible hype. And you know what? That movie came out right up against another one that I saw in theaters, and I was going in kind of begrudgingly because it was the only horror movie playing at the AMC in
Mhm.
Altoona. And that was was it Immaculate with
Yeah.
Sydney Sweeney? And that thing caught me so off. Have you seen it?
I want to see it. I want to see that in The Last Omen, but like I feel like the same way. I'm like, if someone's like, there's a lot of possession in The Last Omen, and I'm like, that's a very important movie to me. Like,
I'm not gonna say a single word about Immaculate
I've
other
heard
than
good stuff, so and I do like nun movies. Go figure.
definitely watch it. It is the closest thing that you'll get to a like an old 70s nunsploitation movie in
Oh,
2024. It blew me away
do you like
how
Alucarda? That's my
yeah,
favorite nun movie.
yeah.
There's no more screaming ever in a movie than Alucarda. That movie's nonstop screaming. It's
Can
great.
we just stop nunsploitating,
Yeah.
Yeah, we did a long time ago.
please?
There's a
No,
And
let's
really
keep it
good
that
like
way.
slasher I'd recommend on Tubi called Killer Body Count. Bad title, but good movie. It's directed by Denisha Esterhazy, who did the Banana Splits movie, and she did the Slumber Party Massacre
oh,
remake.
I
And
I
Oh,
did
didn't know
not
that.
see the remake, but I heard it was really good.
it's good. And like this one's great because it's about these Catholic kids that all get sent to a camp because they're overly promiscuous or gay or they have to pray it out. And there's a devil-faced serial killer that's in the woods waiting for them that might be a priest that killed everybody at a seminary years before. And it's got pretty fun gore and it's got a good idea in it. It's you'll see through it pretty quick in the ending and stuff, but getting there is a lot of fun and I dug it. It's they the hard part with slashers now is you got to get the cell phones out right away. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because otherwise you're like so there's always like this bit. It's almost like it's become the I always joke about Van Damme movies because do you ever notice there's like 10 minutes of Van Damme movies where it's like we have to explain why you can't understand a single word he says. Like sudden death is like, well, he was from French Canada and he played hockey, but then he got hurt, and that's why he has this accent. Like Arnold never gave a shit about that. You know what I mean? Like, let's just get
Yeah.
past it. And it's like, so modern slashers are always like, oh, we have to take your cell phones because we're all going geocaching or just something like this. You know what I mean? And that's why we don't have
Wait, how
phones.
can- they're geocaching without a cell phone? What are they just
Exactly.
write down coordinates?
Yeah, exactly. It's like this one is like cell phones are an entryway to letting the spirit of promiscuity into your life from sexting.
Well, we already know that. That's
Yeah,
true.
yeah. So
100%.
they take them away from the kids, and of course, what happens when you put like 10 kids that just want to have sex in a camp together? They're all just going to have sex with each other.
Oh,
But
Yeah.
the
disgusting.
thing I thought was cool was like only the kids that have orgasms get killed by the killer. So like you have to like hold off.
It's interesting.
No,
But
Yeah,
no.
now that you're describing that movie, the title makes absolute sense considering
yeah,
body count is now used as like how many people you've. Yeah.
yeah. I was
Well,
kind of
it's
hoping
been
that
used that way for a
that they
long
would
time.
use a body count song in it too, but no. our old practice space, actually, we had the Zach's wife bought it at auction when Body Count wasn't allowed to play at graffiti, and like the Pittsburgh police sent a letter to the FBI thanking them for blocking them from playing Pittsburgh. We had that letter, and we had it inside a poster of Ice-T and like the Body Count 1 album art, and like because we play Body Count songs in practice all the time. Like we should really play these live. My love for the Body Count is not ironic; it's totally true. But like, man, that's my dream to be like a white kid Body Count fan.
Well, I don't know if it was the last album or not, but it's definitely one of the more recent albums where one of the singles was just about how annoyed he was because he just wanted to play
Yeah.
Xbox. And like that's so relatable. And it's hilarious that you like here's a guy who 20, 30 years ago was singing about killing the police, and now it's
Yeah.
like, can I just play Xbox?
Man,
My
please,
favorite-
sorry,
my
I'm just gonna
favorite-
play Xbox.
On the first album, there's one part where he talks about all the cities in America Body Count's going to go to, and he's like, "We're going to go to New York, Chicago, Ohio." Like Ohio's a city, and it's my favorite Ice-T thing.
Nobody knows where Ohio's at anyway, so it's fine.
No, it's like people think that Philly and Pittsburgh are next to each other, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Not that they're
There's-
like 5 hours away, 6 hours away.
Oh, and there's a whole Pennsylvania in between it.
Yeah.
You know?
6 hours of mountains.
Oh, I remember we used to go to
Nobody-
ECW Arena. It was like the worst drive because it'd be like you'd be hungover and be like, "We're never going to get back to Pittsburgh."
Then you had to watch Chikara.
Oh. There's some good dudes that were there. I mean, I'm not, The other crazy thing I was going to mention about this is that Howard Cohen, who wrote it, he wrote a ton of really cool movies and some weird stuff too. Like he started as a joke writer for Playboy, but he directed Saturday the 14th and wrote it. And Saturday the 14th Strikes Back, Space Raiders, and he wrote going way back in Corman World, the Young Nurses, and the Unholy Rollers, which was from that year that there were like 2 or 3 roller derby movies in '72. The Unholy Rollers is the good one, and there's the Brown Bomber with Raquel Welch, which is not as good. But I love these eras where like these like quasi sports kind of get big, and they're like maybe like Over the Top is the best example, right? Because they're like we're good. My favorite thing about that is Sergio Martino came to the U.S. and he made Hands of Steel here, which is a Terminator ripoff, and they were staying at the same hotel as everybody making Over the Top. And Martina was like, "Oh, arm wrestling movies are going to be big. I'll put an arm wrestling scene in this movie." And that's why Paco Kordak and George Eastman have an arm wrestling scene with a scorpion on the table. And I'm like, man, that's awesome. Like, if only we lived in a world where there were a whole bunch of arm wrestling movies.
Well, he only missed out by about 30 years because arm wrestling has, well, not all right. Okay, it's slapping.
Slap
Yeah,
fighting.
slap now.
Slap fighting, close, because that evolved from the arm wrestling to slap fighting.
Oh yeah, I love the arm wrestling and Over the Top. I begged my parents for the toys, which are now impossible to get. They're so expensive. And my mom was like, "Why do you care about this movie?" And I'm like, "It's Stallone." Also, the dude who, I don't know if you have The Farmer, because that finally came out. That was another like, this movie's never going to come out movie, and it finally came out in the last year. The dude who made The Farmer actually wrote the script for Over the Top for himself, and then took it to Cannon. And that's when Cannon was trying to get Stallone, and somehow Stallone saw the script and goes, "I'll do this." Except that that's one of the many movies that crippled Cannon, because they went from making $5 million movies that were making money to like a $50 movie, that $50 million movie that made no money. So I both love it and I'm sad about it. But even though Golden Globes' name is on it, but it got another studio put out. Austin, who does the Cannon Film Guide, knows way better than me. He's also on the new Vinegar Syndrome release. He did the commentary for what do you call it? What one did they? Navy SEALs, and then the other
Invasion USA.
Invasion USA. Yeah, he did a commentary track for Invasion USA too, that's why I bought it. I was like, man, that's awesome. So
I haven't bought it yet. I was gonna
No.
get the standard because I thought the I always get into these weird discussions about the art. Like I'm one of the guys that I can appreciate the new art, but I prefer all the old stuff. And so like
that's why 88 stuff is really cool, because and Arrow does it too, where they do the flip art.
Yeah.
So depending on what art you want to put in, you can do that.
That I imagine that comes in like that bigger box, like the other 4Ks were, and I just thought it was kind of ugly. So
Did
I'm
you
gonna
get the Blade
wait.
in the Dark one? I think that art's really cool for new
I
art.
did not yet.
Yeah, where the hand splits open. That's really cool
Yeah,
design.
yeah. I have a friend who has it, and he like showed me in a video how cool it is.
Yeah. That's a movie that, like, I didn't like at all when I first saw it, around to it, but I think I was, like, comparing Lamberto to his dad, which I always do. I'm like, "Why am I
That was
that's not
me.
fair." Yeah?
That was me. It's Green Lantern.
Oh. Ugh.
This is not
I
even
actually,
the
hey,
first
hey,
time
hey,
I've heard
hey,
this
hey,
Green Lantern.
I love Green Lantern.
The original
No,
character? The movie?
yeah, the
Yeah,
movie,
he's talking about the Reynolds
Ryan
vehicle.
Reynolds one. Yeah, I love it. It's great. It's awesome.
Okay. I'll give you that. I like Condor Man, so, I mean, I can't say anything. I mean, the coolest thing, speaking of artwork, I mean, the artwork for this is Boris Vallejo did the artwork for this movie. I mean, you can't
Uh,
get better
did
if
he
you're
do all
doing.
four?
Yeah, it's amazing because, like, his art is gorgeous, and it's like, I think when I first saw it, like, especially the later ones, like you said, how Deathstalker becomes like a lot skinnier and not, like a barbarian character. Like, that's who I want this guy to look like. I want him to look like this big roided up, barbarian. And then the other ones he doesn't look like. At least Richard Hill looks kind of sort of close to that.
Yeah, but it's what's ironic about that is the posters never stop portraying him as the
Yeah.
Hulk. And like those two movies have the really small guy. Anybody who's watching right now, I'll put an overlay up of
Yeah.
so you can see here in the center there. I guess these are the top two are the Deathstalker, and then the
Yeah.
bottom two are Barbarian Queen. But
Very-
that's that 4-pack that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
But-
Warrior and the Sorceress is a crazy movie because William Stout, who he did the production design for Masters of the Universe with Mebius.
Oh,
He did like
really?
all the costumes for Masters of the Universe for canon. He actually wrote Warrior and the Sorceress, and the guy stole it from him. And he went to the movies and saw it, and he goes, "Holy shit, that's my movie." I got to interview him. That guy has done so much stuff. He did the storyboards for for First Blood is his first movie, and then he did all the production design for Conan. So his stuff is he's done so many movies where you're like, I can't believe how much stuff he's done in his career. Like, he did Raiders of the Lost Ark. He did a lot of production design for that movie too, and like his art is just incredible. He did a lot of Disney stuff too, like theaters, like ride stuff, and just he also did the original House poster, which was
okay.
he did for Sandy Howard, and it was just supposed to be the poster that sells the movie, before they even had the movie done. And it's the one that looks like Sergeant D from SOD, where he's like holding the house of the Richard Mall's
Oh,
character.
okay.
Yeah.
And he's like, that ended up being the movie poster. And I didn't even get paid for it. He's like, they liked it so much, but it's great art. I mean, you know,
Yeah, no, it's reminiscent of I I can't I don't as big of a fan of it as I am of them. I can't remember the guy that did the art for the first few Kiss albums.
oh yeah,
Molly Crew.
Ken Kelly, yeah,
Yeah, like it looks a lot like his stuff, and it has
yeah,
kind of just that 70s 80s like gritty fantasy feel to it, and that's something that I find striking. And I mean, it was in at the time, like even Star Wars
hmm
has that look to it, but these in particular, like they do like draw your attention. Like I was in a room full of VHS when I found
yeah,
these movies, and that completely just sucked me in. I want to when we're talking about movie posters, I want to collect the posters, but the posters are almost as expensive as
oh
buying
yeah,
the movie itself.
yeah. I think that's Corman was really smart about his posters because almost up until like Carnosaur and the ones that used like photos, um, like this era of his movies, like they all have gorgeous posters, and like that's what's going to sell the movie. Especially he was using them for like when he went to con or when he went to film market, the books from New World or in Canon and different companies. Those books, if you flip through them, it's amazing. Like the art is like there's no movie, there's just the art still, and it's like yeah, like sell us on this movie without the movie existing, and they're all really great at it. Bill and I always joke that there's, like I said before, there's some movies where I'm like, I want whatever that movie is that that is in that artwork, because that's not the movie we got. Like we got something
Yeah.
else. Like this one especially, like that monster's not in this movie. No monster as cool as the one you have up right now. No monster that cool is in this movie. It's a cool movie, but it's like
Yeah. No, it's like the closest thing that you're gonna get as a representation to the ogre that he fights at the end of the
Yeah.
tournament. And what else? Yeah, there's right at the beginning too. I can't remember. I just watched this today just so I could have some prep. But yeah, but nothing like that bulky or crazy or with the mace or any kind of like awesome battle like that. But I don't know.
You know what it
These-
reminds me of a little bit? It reminds me of like the early kind of like video game artwork too, like the
Yeah.
early Nintendo, the early like the Sega Amstrad stuff like that,
Yeah.
where they had that really amazing artwork, and then you played the game, and it was like,
yeah.
Like the first Mega Man art where you're like, this looks
yes, and
really
then Mega
weird.
Man, Mega Man looks so bad in that first artwork though. Like, why did they do? They did him dirty.
Fat Mega
in that
Man.
first, yeah, Fat Mega Man, and the arm isn't even the same. Nothing about him's the same.
The craziest thing about this movie is like Munkard does one of the weirdest things. He has all that harem of people, and he sends all the women to drink and have sex with all the fighters, right? And then
Yeah.
he sends one of his guys made up as the princess, and like there's that magic spell that turns him into her, and like he's in pain as his penis goes up into his body to transform him into Barbie Benton. And then like it's the only time Deathstalker just doesn't outright kill somebody. He's like, he lets that guy go. Is he like embarrassed? Is he like, oh, I can't believe this happened, bro? And like he lets her go, and then she kills Lana Clarkson's character. He, she, they. I don't want to say the wrong term. Kill Lana Clarkson's character, and it's like you killed everybody else in this movie. Just like I don't know, but like that's such a weird moment. Like I can't imagine what it was like for kids to get that.
Yeah,
I like
no,
the end of my favorite part of the whole movie is there's a scene where that when the ogre shows up. And there's an entire family eating a picnic lunch and cheering, and he hits a dude with a hammer, and blood sprays all over that family. And you're like, "What? It's like an ECW show. Like this is crazy."
Yeah, and I'm curious what we will get out of the reboot as far as the kind of that same theme. I think the guy playing Deathstalker is like almost 60.
Yeah, he
He's
was in. What was he in? Wrote it down here somewhere. Oh, he was in
couple
Bloodsport 2.
Bloodsports.
Yeah, Daniel Bernhardt. Yeah,
Yeah,
And
he was 2, 3, and 4.
yeah. Steve Kostansky, who's directing it, it's never done me wrong. He did Psycho Gorman, which was great, and The Void,
Yeah.
which is one of my favorites. Like it's
Void.
as close as you can get to a John Carpenter movie, a good John Carpenter movie these days. And Slash is one of the producers too, so I mean that's
He
kinda cool.
was. Yeah.
For this. So it's going to be. I'm excited about it. Like those are the kind of people like when they're in charge of a movie. I'm like, yeah, okay, let's see what happens. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And
There's definitely a track record.
yeah, it's like kind of I always wanted King Conan, right? Because at the end of Conan, when you see the old Arnold on the throne, you're like, that's the story I want. Do you know what I mean? Because that's when King Conan was coming out from Marvel. So I want some of those stories. So maybe that's what this is going to be. I mean, it'll be interesting.
Yeah, and Arnold has been pushing for that for 20, 30 years at this point. I don't know why anybody. It's crazy to me that you can get Deathstalker 5
Yeah.
funded, but not a new Conan movie.
You can't get a new John Waters movie funded, but you can get Deathstalker 5 funded. What's going on with this world? The other crazy thing, like we haven't really had any. They made that other new Conan movie a couple years ago, which was not good.
I never even watched it.
King Call with Kevin Sorbo, which isn't even. They took a Conan story and turned it into a Call story. It's not even Call. Like we haven't really had like a barbarian movie that like the Northman, I guess, kind of sort of, but just like a dumb barbarian movie, which is that, and I say dumb in a very affectionate and non-mean way, but like that's what I want. Like I want the kind of movies because like when you said when you were going to the video store when you were a kid, there was one or two of these every week. that you were getting. You know what I mean? And like that's what I want more of that. Like, 'cause I could get so excited when these showed up on HBO. Like the second Conan movie, I was like losing my mind when it came out. Like I couldn't wait. It's got Andre in it. I mean, it's got so many cool people. Wilt Chamberlain's in it, Grace Jones. Like, what a great cast.
Yeah. That's kind of something that we took it for granted. I mean, I remember
Mhm.
like these are movies you're talking about like discovering or finding or like waiting for it to hit shelves. And I
Yeah,
remember just like watching it on TNT, like
yeah.
when I was a kid, just like flipping through the channels or AMC or whatever Turner Broadcasting channel would play it. It was like, oh, okay, well here's Conan again. I guess I'll watch this for the
I
700th
mean,
time.
that's what HBO stood for. Hey, Beastmaster's on, and TBS was the Beastmaster station. Because Beastmaster was on. That was the movie they played the most. But there was a Beastmaster TV series, even. You know what I
It
mean?
was
Like,
good.
Was
I
yeah.
liked it. It's
It's
on a
crazy.
there's a box set of it now.
Hmm. It's crazy that Don Coscarelli did Phantasm and Beastmaster. Like, that's, you know what I mean? Like the two totally opposite
Yeah.
worlds. You know what I mean? What's really weird is if you go back and watch. My wife had never seen Dune before, so we watched the first one, which I like in its own weird way. And we watched the new ones, and she's like, she is a longtime fan of Phantasm. She's like, man, they ripped off so much stuff in Phantasm from Dune. I'm like, yeah, I know. That whole speech is like the Fears of the Mind Killer speech is word for word taken from Dune, but
I've
still a cool movie, right?
I've never actually
Did you-
watched Dune. I have to
Oh,
admit. I
Oh,
I
oh,
have
come
I've
on.
tried to watch Dune a couple of times, but
You watched Killer Clowns from Outer Space 6,000 times, but you haven't watched Dune?
right, because I'm
oh.
watching Killer Clowns from Outer Space. It's
I'm the same.
it's
My
nothing against it. I just never had the time.
My brother gets upset at me because I'd never watched like Mandalorian or any of the new Star Wars stuff, and he's like, "But you'll watch the shittiest Spanish horror movie like 5 times." I'm
Yes.
like, "That's what's important to me."
C.
Right.
C.
Yeah. I also wanted to bring up. We talked about John Carl Buchler before. Like his effects history is amazing. Like when I was going through his list of movies, there's so many of my favorites. Like he did Hatchet, Necronomicon, Scanner Cop, Carnosaur. The gore cut of Tammy and the T-Rex is all his gore. Dolls, which is one of my favorite movies ever. Mausoleum. He directed Troll. Ghoulies Go to College. He did the
Ghoulies
effects
go to
for
college.
he did the effects From Beyond and Terror Vision, which are two of my favorites of all time. Garbage Pail Kids, he did the effects for that, and Hard Rock Zombies. Speaking of movies that Vinegar Syndrome put out, and then Sorceress, which is the Jim Werneski movie, which is really good if you like these kind of films. And it may have more boobs in this movie, which is seemingly impossible. It also has like a
Yeah.
lion that flies through space and lasers come out of its head. It's real good.
Well, that's pretty much Narnia.
Yeah, it's like when you see it, you're like, I can't believe all this stuff's happening. Like the trailer makes me so happy. Like it's like I'm a big obsessed with trailers, and that one's like badass because it has like it's like a metal video. Like it's like the Dio's videos. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Speaking of
like
Don Coscarelli, Dio he directed the Last in Line video for Dio.
it's that's funny that you bring that up because I've been watching a lot of DS stuff lately, and that's the
Yeah.
last one that I watched. I was on the treadmill watching. That was the last song. Then I watched that video literally
Dio Black
today.
Sabbath's the best Black Sabbath. Like
Yes, it is. Thank
Yeah.
you. Heaven
Yeah.
and Hell is definitely better
Oh.
than anything that Ozzy did.
I like Volume 4 a lot because I like the guitars on it, but like Heaven and Hell is so good. Like Neon Nights is like one of the greatest songs ever, and like especially like Mob Rules being in heavy metal is one of the greatest scenes in heavy metal.
Yeah.
So like I'm Dio's the best because like someone got in a fight with me about him once, and they're like, all his songs are about stupid stuff like dragons, and I'm like, yeah, I know, that's awesome. Like so, all Sleep songs are about drugs and dragons too, like in space. Like that's all songs should be about. Come on, guys.
Yeah. And like
Yeah, I don't want to hear songs about real life.
Yeah, I live real life. I hate
Stupid.
it. Yeah,
I think all of the accompanying music that they play with Dio is better. And I
Mhm.
think it is better because they didn't have to worry about writing anymore because Dio took over as the writer. Uh, Ozzy
Many times.
obviously got his shit together and went on for his stellar solo career. That's like one of the best addition by subtraction
Mhm.
instances of somebody leaving a band because both groups I think flourished. And I don't think at the time people, now I'm not old enough, but I don't think people were like shitty towards Sabbath with Dio.
Well,
I
look,
think that was like a post 80s 90s kind of retrospective
Yeah.
thing where
I
people
think it was an
decided to
early
shit on it.
2000s retrospective thing. And look what came from Ozzy, Zach Wilde.
And Jake
He had
Lee
his
too.
own
I
band.
remember when Jakey Lee joined Ozzy. That's how old I am.
Yeah.
Randy Rhoads, you know, like
Randy
there's a lot of stuff we wouldn't have gotten had he stayed with Sabbath, but
But the other thing too is like
absolutely.
Dio doesn't sing the Ozzy. If this once someone taught me this, like it freaked me out. Ozzy only sings the lead guitar line. Like he always sings along to the lead guitar, and he doesn't usually go off it. Versus Dio does anything. Like the other awesome thing about Dio is Dio always changes. It's a Bruce Dickinson thing too. He always changes the last chorus to something else. Like in Last in Line, he's like, "We're the first in line" at the end of it. And at Neon Nights, he inverts a couple things too. Man, there's so many good songs on the Dio Sabbath albums, especially because they get kind of funky on a couple songs too, and just like start jamming out stuff. And it's like it feels like they became a completely different identity. Like they don't have to be like the Iron Man
Yeah.
Sabbath, which is awesome too. Don't get me wrong. I love Supernaut. I love Volume 4, but it's like it's a totally different identity. Like I like it a lot.
Yeah.
It's a
Um,
way more of an upgrade than Sammy Hagar being in Van Halen, which is my the least favorite thing ever.
well,
Speaking of Twister, that story about him writing a song for Twister is amazing.
Oh,
Because like they told him like do not, I don't know if you know this story, like they told him do not write anything about tornadoes in the song. And the first thing he writes is like you're in the suck zone.
you're in the circle.
Yeah. And like Alex Van Halen was like, this is ridiculous. Like and like that song, like because they made him leave his wife's pregnancy to come and record vocals for that song.
Dude,
And
that
that's the
song, that
song that
movie is
broke them up.
so freaking iconic.
Oh, human being.
Oh, it's iconic. It's so iconic.
The only Sammy song I like is oh, and I like
Uh-oh.
some of them because I know I'm going to talk shit on. Like
I just iconic myself too hard. I'm frozen.
yeah,
yeah.
I know that I'm going to make fun of him and then sing Dreams for the rest of the night because it's super catchy. But like Pound Cake's the only one I really like because the video is the dumbest video. Like it is like I remember when it came out, and everybody was super jazzed about Pound Cake, and I was like, they're competing with like David Lee Roth, who has the greatest solo band ever, like Steve Vai, you know, Bissonette and Billy Sheehan. That's an awesome lineup, right? And then it's like, here's Pound Cake.
I've never really liked any of the Hagar era Van Halen or any of
Gary
the stuff
Sharon.
he did solo either. Like
The Three Lock Box album's pretty good, but like, yeah, he's kind of limited. I don't know. There's people that like him though. I mean,
yeah, I mean to quote Joe Dirt, they sold a lot of records.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I I can't drive 65 or 55. I don't even,
yeah,
yeah, it's that I don't know, man. It invokes something in me that just seems like elderly to me.
he writes
It's
the
weird.
dumbest lyrics. Like the one I saw a picture in a gallery. A fallen angel looked a lot like you. That's the dumbest lyric ever. Like I've written some dumb lyrics too, but that's a really dumb song.
Yeah, and it is an interesting kind of what if they had gone with him as the singer from the beginning, like
Yeah,
what Van Halen would have really became or amounted to. You know,
but I want to see the movie that David Lee Roth was going to make, Crazy from the Heat, because they were supposed to be a movie that he was going to make, and they had the script written and everything, and then it fell apart. And I'd love to know. My other obsession is I'd like to see Arn Anderson and Michael Anthony in a band together because they're the same person. They're like the dude that does everything right, and like, but they're never like the champ. You know what I mean? Like Michael Anthony singing most of the high parts in those Sammy songs. Like he's the harmony, and he's like, but he's never going to get to play cool solos. He's just playing bass.
yeah.
And then they kick him out for Wolfgang, which is absolute BS. Still not
Well,
cool. But
is he touring with him now? Because I
yeah,
know
or with
they're on
with
tour.
Sammy, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Uh,
like the fact that they're together. I don't like any Sammy's music, but I kind of like him as like a person because he's always
Yeah.
talking about being abducted by aliens, and that's rad. Like, can you imagine they came from millions of miles around and they took the red rocker and nobody else? Like, that's who they took. But you should do a whole episode of the Sasquatchers about that, about Sammy Hagar getting taken by aliens. I
You
think
know
that
what?
would be a
That's
good
not a bad idea. It's actually going to be something that we do now. We'll give you full credit at the beginning.
Oh, you should do like famous people that have been abducted by aliens. And
Oh yeah, I never would have even considered that. That's
yeah,
we're trying to do more lives moving forward in the
Mm.
summertime, and like
yeah,
maybe not book as many like authors or
hmm
filmmakers, whoever we're talking to, and just kind of BS. There's a lot of we noticed that like when we're doing Sasquatchers in particular, I almost put on like an interviewer face,
yeah,
and my entire personality is completely void from the show. And
yeah,
when people like talk to us in the green room, they're like completely surprised at how kind of ridiculous and over the top I am, because I have
yeah.
that almost like a persona. So I want to do more lives that's just us, where we're just like bullshitting and talking about like random things like that. I think that's actually a really solid idea.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I'm always obsessed by like what celebrities decide to talk about stuff. Like especially I got to interview some of the disclosure guys, the guys that meet with Congress and stuff about it for one of their movies, and it was like really like I think they had been talking to a lot of movie sites, and then they're like, "Oh, this guy knows all this stuff." So it was that was the band between Twin and Cant was actually going to be a band about Nazi Bell UFOs, and all our songs were about magical technology UFOs. And I'm like, who is gonna? This is always what I think. Like, who is gonna care about this music? But then it's like, if I'm playing doom or black metal, like nobody's gonna like it anyway. So I may as well do exactly what I want. You know, that's like
Right.
Uncle Acid said that 'cause their new album's a Jalo album. It has Edwidge Fenech on it and Franco Nero are on the album. And
Oh, cool.
their lead singer's like, nobody really listens to us anyway. Like, let's just do what we want. So it's awesome. Like it sounds just like you're listening to a whole movie with dialogue and everything. So I don't know. It's cool when bands get to do that. But yeah, I want more celebrities to be like, yeah, I was abducted. Like, let's talk about it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can't remember what network it was, but they had celebrity ghost stories. So
Oh yeah, yeah.
if people
Piper was on
were
it the one time where he talked about Adrian
yeah.
Adonis's ghost, which is hilarious. Of course, Piper was haunted. Like, and all these Carney wrestlers come out and like, you know.
Yeah. I would be abducted if it got me 15 minutes of TV time, regardless of if I was abducted or not.
I often thought I was as a kid because I used to sneeze up metal as a kid a
Oh,
lot.
that's
So like that's
definitely a
supposedly an
weird thing.
implant thing. Yeah, and I would have a lot of dreams about. But I also watched Battlestar Galactica for bed, and they always had that ending credit of Project Blue Book, and it would creep me out. So I think I was probably just influenced by that. You know.
Yeah. I had a neat experience with the UFO, like seeing it visually happen, but nothing beyond that. It was like a 45-minute event, and I made the mistake of being honest about it, because I think so many people in the paranormal world right now have these shows with like thousands and thousands of followers, and it started with telling some crazy story that I have trouble taking seriously.
Yeah,
Uh, but yeah, that's the extent of it. Like I saw something really cool and honestly changed me as a person. But uh, yeah, I just realized it's almost midnight.
yeah. You should have my brother. My brother is like a hardcore conspiracy guy,
Yeah,
and not like the this is my sadness is the conspiracy like I'm sure you come from the Art Bell world of when
yeah,
conspiracies were super fun and Wildcat Lions being on all night, you know what I mean? Like that's the stuff that's like that's what I love. Like I hate that it's so politicized and like all the left-wing conspiracies of 20 years ago are repeated now as right-wing conspiracies. And it's like
yeah.
they
It's
kind
rough.
of took the fun out of it. And like my brother is a old school head about it. He's actually considering writing a book. He wants me to write with him. Is he's gone through all the episodes because I'm a big GI Joe nerd. All the episodes of GI Joe and pulled out the occult symbolism in them. It's pretty. He and I have talked about a lot. Thundercats is probably the most. They always talk about He-Man being satanic. It's not. Thundercats is the most satanic show. Like there's so much like magic and ritual stuff in it, and occult stuff in it. It's awesome. And
Yeah, I
that's
just started watching that with my kids.
yeah, it's great. It's really good. But yeah, he wants to do a book about that, but he can talk. disclosure and like who he thinks are disinfo people. He hates Tom DeLonge. He thinks Tom DeLonge's a you know, a government co-op. He has some pretty interesting views, so it's pretty interesting
I
to
would
talk to him.
absolutely have him on if he wanted to. That sounds like a
I'll
lot of
ask him.
fun, actually.
Yeah, he's nuts though, in a good way. Yeah, he's got some opinions. He went to the Ancient Aliens thing last weekend or 2 weeks
Oh,
ago.
okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
I've been
that was
following
my
that.
mom's birthday gift was going.
Oh, you took your mom.
Yeah, my whole family, they're all like this, and it's great because I remember my first wife, like when she first met my dad, she goes, your son thinks that his iPhone is reverse engineered from a UFO. He goes, oh yes, of course, and he like started telling her all about it, and it was like, man, that's great.
Oh yeah, that's really funny and
Yeah,
interesting. Yeah, I would. Yeah, that would be a lot of fun. I would absolutely do that.
yeah,
Uh, I just did not too long ago. I tried my hand at like a Daily Show style thing, where
hmm
I kind of let loose on some of these people that I think are going too far in that direction, and
yeah,
um, I don't know. The people in the I knew it was gonna make people mad, but the people
yeah,
that I knew were gonna get mad got mad. But I've gotten positive feedback from the people that aren't like shoulder deep into it. So I
yeah.
might continue to
I
churn
think it's
some
a
of
good
those out.
idea because it's like that was my favorite thing that like I can't listen to Coast anymore now because like now it's just like it just feels like they don't argue with stuff. Whereas versus art would just be like, this is stupid. Like you're not right. And like he would like
Yeah.
fight people and stuff, not in a mean way or anything, but he would really. And also that's why I like Late Night with the Devil so much because there's a lot of Amazing Randy in it. You know what I mean? Of how he
Yeah.
would like really push, uh, especially Yuri Geller or people that really weren't doing they were doing stage magic and weren't doing actual things. And it's like I don't think we have that healthy nobody like it's really hard to change people's viewpoints these days. People are so locked in and nobody wants to learn or look at different things. And it's like we've kind of lost that spirit of curiosity. And that's to me what conspiracy theory was always about, or like paranormal stuff was always about, was like, well, let's just see who knows. Do you know what I mean? And like
Yeah.
maybe it exists. And I like the idea of maybe versus more being locked into a thought. And
Yeah. Once you have a definitive in that topic,
yeah.
it you almost need to then take a stance that's hard.
I don't ever want the Loch Ness monster to be found, right? Because I like the idea. I don't want the answer if it exists or not. Like I like the idea that it could be because the idea that magic exists somewhere in the world is what keeps us like creative and out there. And I don't and movies the same way. Like I want movies to be nuts. And I want like I want fun stuff to happen. And it's like when it doesn't, it's like, you know,
Yeah.
it's hard. So yeah, I like that you're trying different stuff on the show. So
Oh yeah. I know we like went literally all over the place
oh, it's
here in this
okay.
conversation, but
Sorry.
no, we're the same way. This
Yeah.
would have happened regardless. Uh, we just recorded Zombie Apocalypse, and we did the same thing with the author that we had on. JC's back in time to wrap things up. It looks like.
I'm doing a
Uh,
zombie movie
Great.
next week. I'm
I don't.
doing a
are you
Zombie New Millennium. It's a 2010 Italian one. I've never seen it.
interesting?
And then
Uh,
Sun Classics, The Lincoln Conspiracy, which finally came out on Blu-ray from Kino. So I'm doing that next week too.
oh, cool.
Have you
On
guys ever done Sun Classic stuff on the show?
no, not yet.
Oh, you totally should. In Search of Historic Jesus is a great movie. I love that movie.
I'll have to add that to the
Yeah. The
queue of
Mysterious
stuff.
Monsters is real good too. It's a lot of like you know that scene in Amazon Women on the Moon where he's like, is it fact or bullshit? Like all those movies are 100%
Yeah.
that. They're all like this is all bullshit.
Oh, I'll have to definitely check that one out.
Yeah.
Um, do you do you ever act, or would you act in anything?
I'm not that good of an actor, I don't think. I don't know. I've been writing scripts though. That's my next thing. So I have a couple scripts that I'm working on.
Cool.
I don't know if they'll go anywhere. I don't know. I think I really have to put my money where my mouth is as I write them because like I can't write something that's like every other streaming movie because I've like railed against these movies so much now.
Right.
And so it's like, I've done stunt work. That's about the most I've done. One of my really good friends is doing a lot of stunt work now, and he just got trained for burning. He can do full body burns, and like he just posted some pictures of it, and I was like, man, that would be awesome. Like I want to do that so bad.
That's not even something that I would have considered that you need specific training to do. Actually,
yeah.
like I
You have
just
to get
come from
licensed
that.
for it and everything. Yeah.
Oh, really? I mean, that makes sense. I just come from that like DIY kind of do-it-yourself guerrilla style, where
Yeah.
grew up like absolutely went through flaming tables, backyard wrestling when I was in high
Yeah.
school. Like,
Yeah.
just playing with fire was something that we did.
I used to do a
license.
flaming clothesline for my finisher, where I'd light my whole arm up and just with nothing on it, and just hit a
Yeah.
clothesline.
That's nuts that you could do that in a wrestling ring without a license, but a guy working on a movie has to have a license for it.
Yeah, but yeah, he's been doing tons of stunt stuff and like a lot of animal training stuff. So I want to get him on the show really bad because he has some really interesting experiences. Like he's doubled for a lot of really cool people, and it's like I think that's awesome. Like when you guys should have Bill on your show too. He would have a lot of fun.
Oh, I'd love to. I was gonna reach out to him.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, he's definitely a really cool dude, super knowledgeable. I enjoy, even if it's just to have him on to tell him how much I enjoy watching him. Like,
Yeah. My favorite is like when Soldier was here. I don't know if you remember Soldier, the Japanese wrestler. He lived with Bill, and Bill used to live in Mexican War Streets, and they had like a ghost in their house. So it was like a Mexican wrestler, Bill, his husband, and a ghost all lived in the house together. So it was pretty awesome. I was like,
it's a sitcom, actually.
Yeah, someone should make this sitcom. Yeah, thanks for having me on. This was a blast. I love obviously talking movies, and I think you guys are doing cool stuff. I'd love to. If you guys ever want me on again, we should do the Jalo one though. I'll come. I have a couple lists for you guys. I'm going to put together.
Okay, yeah, we're definitely going to do the Jalo, and if we ever want to, you ever want to do a zombie specific thing, I'm launching the Zombie Apocalypse. Also, we do a wrestling show, which it would be fun to talk wrestling. We just did the first episode with Kato last week.
I love Kato.
Yeah, no, me too. When I was training, when I was at PWX, Kato was one of the vets that always showed up, and he was the guy that I kind of picked out of all the vets where I was like, okay, I think this is the guy that I want to like me. So everything that I do is going to be to impress Kato. And I did not last long because I had I was hit by a coal truck, and it took like 10 years to get my neck surgery, but I finally did it last year. And so it was a conversation with Kato where he was like, you should probably consider, like, sure, this is something you want to do, but when you're 40, would you rather be throwing ball with your kids or be in a wheelchair because you didn't walk away right now? So like it was important for me to have Kato on first because he kind of was in a mentorship role to me.
That's awesome.
So yeah, but we'll definitely.
I would love to do the last 2 or 3 Bruno Mattei movies that he did. He kind of did a remake of Virus, his 1980s zombie movie, and it's all shot on video. It's actually on Tubi now because Visual Vengeance put it on there. And it's
okay.
If you have to, like, obviously Bruno's an acquired taste, but he used all he stole footage from K-19, the Widowmaker, for it, and he also Goldberg's entrance music shows up in it.
Oh, really?
It's great. It's total junk. It's awesome.
I'll add it to my watch list.
Yeah,
I'll watch it this weekend.
Yeah, it moves quick. Supposedly that's originally why we got hired because they were putting those up, or we're going to put those on Blu-ray, and then they said, "Do you want to do Suburban Sasquatch?" And I was like, "Fuck yeah!" Like that's definitely a movie I can talk a lot about. And so we got hired to do that, and then I think we've done 9. Only like 3 have come out. We have like 6 more we're waiting to come out.
Did you do the LA AIDS jabber?
No. I interviewed the director though, and he's awesome. He's the nicest guy in the world. I like LA AIDS Jabber a lot. That's a fun movie.
Yeah.
It sounds like that sounds weird saying, but yeah, it's a good movie. They have about 35 movies on Tubi that aren't on Blu-ray yet. I have a whole list on Letterboxd, but some really good ones, including Beyond Dream's Door, which is a great movie. Vinegar Syndrome put that out before in their homegrown horror set, and I love that movie. So I'm so glad they put it out. Um, they have a couple. There's a couple other ones coming out. There's like Brett McCormick. A few of his movies are on there, and then there's a really good vampire documentary about people that think they're vampires that Brett did. That's on there.
Okay.
Children of Dracula, and it's good. It's fun. Brett's awesome. Like he did The Abomination, which is probably my favorite movie of that era. Like not shot on video, Super 8, but and he's the nicest guy in the world. He also wrote Cocaine Shark under one of his many names. But I love.
Okay.
Have you seen The Abomination?
Yeah. I watched
Oh.
Cocaine Shark too recently.
Oh,
I
did you?
think
Yeah.
on Tubi.
Yeah. So there's a lot of Brett movies hidden on Tubi. But he's another good dude. He worked for Corman for a bit, and he made Replicator, which is on Tubi. We did the commentary for that, and he was trying to do a Corman thing. Can I make a movie in 6 days? And he did, and it's pretty fun.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. It's going on midnight. I know you work in the
Yeah.
morning.
Yeah, I got to be on at 8 tomorrow. So yeah,
I could literally continue this conversation for 6 hours, so I'll just let you go
all
so
right, man.
that we don't do that.
Yeah, watch the show on Saturday. We're on at 11 this week. We're showing Zat.
Yes.
AKA the Blood Waters of Dr. Z. I have to figure out a drink that goes with catfish, human catfish. So that'll be an interesting drink to make for this week.
That's also a feature on that show that we didn't talk about, but I really enjoy that you do these themed drinks to go along with the movie.
Yeah, we're trying to think of something that was like different than other shows do. My favorite show, even more than ours, Newcastle After Dark's awesome on YouTube, and they show some really good stuff. And they do a traditional horror host, and they're awesome. So we had been watching them. We're like, well, what can we do that's different? And it didn't seem like anyone was making drinks and showing the ads and doing that stuff. So we each bring like, I'm kind of obsessed with making cool mixed drinks, and I always wanted to be a bartender. So it's, even though I can't always drink them because my acid reflux, but it's fun to do them. And I always think like having a good drink with a movie is like the best part. It's like,
Yeah.
someone said to me once, like, because I used to always bring booze into horror movies and drink in the theater. And they're like, oh, in this theater you can drink. And I'm like, you can drink in any movie theater.
Yeah.
You can drink in any Walmart too if you're a lunatic. So,
Yeah.
Well, thanks for having
Most
me,
people
man. I
do.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Drew.
Yeah, no problem, man. Anytime. This was awesome for me, just as a fan.
Awesome. Tell JC I said bye too. I see.
I'm here. I hear you.
Oh, you're here.
For some reason, my video's not showing up.
I'm
So thank you for
talking
coming
to
on.
your on-screen avatar as well.
Yes, look at the beard.
Yeah.
Thank you everybody on YouTube, Twitch, and on Rumble for joining us here tonight. We look forward to doing more lives like this. And Sam, thank you so much for coming on here with us and just kind of bullshitting with us. It's been nice.
Yeah. Thanks, man. Talk to y'all soon.
Yeah. All right. Bye. We're still live here for a minute. I always enjoy talking with him. And yeah, it's weird, like this is a person that I was a fan of, 20 years ago, as a middle school, high schooler. Like this was a local wrestling icon where I grew up. And I'm not joking when I said he's been just letting me bother him on social media for 20 years. Every once in a while, he's just shoot him a message. Always the coolest dude. And the show that they do on Saturdays is awesome. And BNS About Movies, his podcast, which you can find on Spotify, it's really like simple. Like he gives you an episode between like 7 to 10 minutes. I think the longest one is like 17 minutes long. Just real quick, digestible stuff. And obviously, you watch this, then you saw how knowledgeable he is on these topics and these movies. So I'm thrilled we were able to do this. We will do more of these. We have a lot of stuff that we're churning out pretty consistently. We're gonna do D&D live streaming and all kinds of other stuff. So yeah, if you're ever bored, just throw us on in the background. And I think with that, we'll wrap it up, man. been a long night for shows. But
It's been a thing. It's been a night.
yeah. I don't know when my dog decided to go to sleep and stop
I
being
haven't
mad.
I haven't heard any noises from your dog in a while, so
Yeah.
maybe go check, make sure he's breathing.
Yeah, I'll do that. Well, I mean, the way he acted today, I could see him deciding to hold his breath just to fucking annoy me. But all right. So from Drew and JC, thanks for watching.
Squatching.
Yeah, it's a dirty term now.
Yeah.